How have you been doing?
I'm doing really well. So like
Well, how much do you have sober?
today is just like Christ in the desert.
Oh,
Today is 40 days.
nice, dude. Nice. Congrats.
Some say I'm Christ like.
And you've been. We haven't done an episode for so long
Yeah.
because you've been in treatment.
Yeah. I want to say one thing. Actually, I did want to say this. Dude, I'm sorry for
Bruh.
the derailment of like doing podcasts and stuff. Like I know with like having fans and then doing shows at a certain interval and then just being away and
Are you
not
apologizing to
being
me or them?
apologizing to both.
Oh, don't
Like
don't ever apologize to me.
I know that's what I'm gonna hear, but I just it's one of those things where I'm aware that it's difficult in many aspects of like someone that's struggling is the inconsistency and the kind of like being super there and then disappearing and I mean, and there was there was sometimes I know I was fucking hungover or still under the influence, and I fucking sucked. And I think if you wanted to torture me, it'd be me listening to that stuff. And so I just, yeah, I don't know. I'm aware of it. I'll put it that way. I won't apologize anymore.
Well,
But
yeah, you're always aware, and like your deep self awareness is one of your strong traits, and I think is what keeps you going. You don't delude yourself. You don't live in denial. You face reality in all its harshness, straightforward, and you face your own flaws and take accountability for them, which I think is a good trait that anybody should have, and especially in your circumstances. But I think that's built into the show. That this show has always been and remains tracking, to some extent, both of our lives, our trials and tribulations. But that addition of you continually going through this process is what the show is about in some sense, and it is a real life look into it. Like from the very beginning, we said this is not somebody with 10 years sober coming in and saying like, "This is how I did it. You can do it too." This is somebody in the trenches. We didn't plan it that way. But if we can turn that struggle into something that is entertaining and inspiring and helpful to other people, then I think we're doing something with it. And at the end of the day, we don't care whether how many shoeless episodes people. I don't think our listeners care how many shoeless episodes they get in a month. I think they care more than anything about you doing good, and when they hear that you're doing good, that matters more than how many episodes they got.
right, and it's just I mean it feels good because it feels different. I'm firing more on all cylinders, and again, sometimes it's just like what's crazy is like with this right now. I hadn't been over the past year. I think I mentioned this before. It's felt like a regression. It's been a fucking crazy bad year of just like the introduction of a new drug, the dying of a volatile yet loving relationship, just all this crap, and I just never, I wasn't able to get out of the fog, like never fully out of just that sort of fogginess where you'll be different, and if you can withstand it for 30 plus days, you'll start latching on to shit. But what was starting to worry me was like when I was in the Independence Center up in Lincoln, and I was like 2 weeks in, I was like, I feel like the same. And I just, it was really terrifying, this idea of regression where all of a sudden, it used to be 3 months here, 6 months there, a year, 5 months. Now we're doing that in days for this past year. I was like, dude, like I'm worse. It's like when I was back in my 20s. And it was this real fear of, especially having the history of some successes and also just being through the process and then becoming jaded from that. And it was like, dude, I think usually I'm very aware. It's about what I do about it, is the major thing. But I think one of the times I was not aware, I was like, Dave, I don't know if you realize this, but I think you're like giving up slowly. And it was like jarring because it was like maybe not on the forefront of my mind, but it was through my actions of what was going on. And there was a lot, like there's things that I'm still struggling with as far as like the relationship thing. It's done, it's been done, but it's just you look at it was a year of new sort of challenges because one of the scariest things about the DXM stuff was for a time, obviously not towards the end or even halfway through it, but for a time I could function on it. And that is the scariest thing. That's what, like, I've talked with my counselor where she's like, I'm not even really worried about you with alcohol. I mean, there's always a chance you could relapse. It's the DXM shit that I'm worried about.
Yeah.
Because with alcohol, it's like super immediately destructive and fatalistic. And basically, I I'm plucked from existence, essentially going crazy in the hospital.
Everybody in your life knows, right?
Everybody knows, and in the hospital, I'm in a hospital or I'm in an institution of some sort within the week. People like they go to treatment and then they relapse and they're like, "Fuck, I was out there for a couple months." I was like, "Dude, with the way I drink and the way my brain turns into, I would not last 3 weeks."
Literally.
And literally, it was like 3 days, and I was sleeping in a dumpster.
Yeah.
But the DXM stuff was just getting by. I was working in this relationship, and I knew, dude, that this is not where this is going to be bad. Like there's no positive ending to this story right now unless you stop right now.
Yeah.
And right now, it's like it's weird to think about it this way, but it's like a honeymoon stage of your drug of choice, so to speak. It's like, a lot of people when they first start out, it's just like, especially if you're young, you can do drugs and wake up, or you can drink and wake up, and you can even be alcoholically or addiction, but still get your shit done and kind of enjoy life. And, your tolerance isn't as high, and you're more sensitive to the drug in a good way where it feels more and all this type of shit, And I basically had this with this brand new drug, something I'd never done ever, which is rare to say about any drug. I'd never done it ever. And it just, a lot of people are like, it's fucking dumb. Like, what is the point of it? For whatever reason, it just chemically matched in my brain to produce this sort of good feeling. And it's weird, too, because of all the people I know, there's rarely anyone I know that's a big thing for them. They're like, oh, I tried it and stuff, but there's very specific things that are weird about it because, the patterns of behavior and stuff with addiction, alcoholism, and all that, they all vary the same. But there is certain specific struggles you go with, like especially if you're a meth head or if you're, on fent and opiates or if you're a drinker. Like there's struggles specific to that. DXM is the same way, but it's just like nobody, I was telling somebody this today, which sounds crazy. We were just having a normal conversation where it's like, when's the last time you cried sober? Just normal talk to start the morning. But I was like, I remember I would have these weeping spells when I was going through withdrawals in DXM. It was a funny, it was just, I must have looked the most insane because I remember one time I was weeping and I was doing dishes and I knew it was just part of my withdrawal. I couldn't stop. I'm just like, just fucking stupid. When is this going to be over? Just weeping and just weird stuff, dude. Like starting to go crazy. And
going to the ER because you're shaking in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
The derealization.
Turn into a human vibrator and then peeing blood, dude. Stuff was getting nuts. Damn. And I didn't even, dude, I think about the fucking crazy level. I mean, I'm never going to have a job with a pension anyway, so let's just do this. The crazy level of shoplifting I was doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, it was nuts. I don't know if I ever told you this. There was one time where I was just totally hopeless and I just couldn't get out of it. I was stuck in it. And I remember it was like this performance to myself, some weird, drug-addled, some part of your real brain, some part of the drug-addled brain where it was like, I'm in such a level of not caring. I'm just going to show myself that. I remember I grabbed the bottle of it in a little box.
Grab the bottle of what?
The DXM, the
liquid.
No, it was always the pill.
Oh, just the box of the pills. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But just basically grabbed the item, didn't put it in the coat, just walked out with it. And it was this thing of I truly
don't give a fuck.
Yeah, and it was like, dude, we're not even literally just a 1 second. Put it. Just walked out with it. Which the irony is that I know probably a good reason I got away with it. A lot of it was I'm 36 and white. I'm wearing collared shirts a lot. And the level of not giving a fuck. That's the kind of the irony of sometimes where hardened criminals get away with it more than really smart people who sit there and they plan their crime like murders and stuff. It's the guys who do it so nonchalantly that get away with it because it's almost like just a normal behavior. And so they do less conspicuous type shit and stuff. And so just that sort of just acting. I've learned a lot from shoplifting. Just acting.
That's a deep point. Yeah.
Just acting. Because
any crime too. There's so many crimes that would work for.
And not even in crime, but just in life too. Just acting if. It reminded me of shitty managers I had who people didn't realize they were shitty at the time. You just act as if. They're probably in academic circles too. Just have that confidence, and you could be fucking off. Totally. But people are just because I think we have this inner thing where it's no one who's that confident could be wrong.
All right.
Which, by the way, boy howdy. Most of the time you are it's like the Dunning-Kruger effect. Most of the time if you're super duper confident, you are very dumb. But
Yeah, exactly.
man, but yeah, it was just a lot of weird things you learned about, like just kind of the world and stuff. Where I was just like, I think just because I know I've talked with a lot of people that have got caught shoplifting, and they're like, yeah, I was being one, it was like if it was shit at Walmart that was like expensive electronics and stuff, but two, just because they had this system,
Mm-hmm.
we were gonna do this and all this stuff. But you know what's the crazy thing is if you're just kind of meandering around, just going about it, like literally, just I would go grocery shopping and just steal there and just act just like it was grocery shopping.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just that the casualness, that's the word I'm looking for. The casualness of which you
Absolutely.
do things where just someone might look twice at you, but they're like, well, no, he's just. I mean, the shoplifters are like looking around and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems like he knows what he's doing. I don't think he went through a checkout aisle. He's
Yeah.
still walking, but all right,
Crazy as fuck, man.
crazy.
So yeah, you got 40 days sober. Are you in a halfway house situation now?
I'm still at the shelter,
Okay.
the Stevens Center, where it's like this. I'm not. There's two units. There's like a long term stuff where they have families that are there and stuff too, and then there's one where it's kind of like it's almost like dorms type of deals where you share a room with a dude, and there's another room within the same dorm. Anyways, but that's for people that are part of like what's called like the Heroes program, where you have levels to it, so it's not just like 30 days of treatment. But for instance, I'm doing just like a 3 times a week programming or like just like processing group, just counseling or whatever, just treatment shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm only doing it 3 times a week for 3 hours. But I still live there, and I still like they have meetings there every night, or I have to get passes as and shit like that. But so it's still this structure where basically, what the crazy thing is? I was gonna be there even longer because then they have another level that you move up to, but. It just might like they've worked on this for like 5 years, and now that they're remodeling,
Yeah.
so they're like later skaters. But
When does that end though? When do you leave out of that?
June 1st is when they're
June
kicking
1st.
everybody else. They move like so if you're veterans and stuff, and they have other people that are like in super vulnerable situations.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're not going to kick them out, but for the most part, they've let people know, and they're like. Yeah, where it's not just like remodeling where it's going to be loud noise. It's like they're fucking redoing the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Do you get to come back after the remodeling, or is it just like?
Yeah, there's another building you like all go to. Like I'll still be in my programming type stuff, but program is a weird word, but I don't know what other word to use. But fuck you. Anyways, but so I'll be just quote unquote non-residential where I'm just going in to do it. Like it's the living quarters that they're changing around. There'll still be all the counselors there and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's just it's that second building with the living quarters. So.
What do you think puts you most at risk for relapsing? Like what environmental conditions? What context? Because sometimes I feel like when you're just living at your parents' house, and you're just like you're not doing, you're not in any program.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the wheels come off.
Oh yeah, I mean for sure. And there's what's funny is during that really good stint of sobriety I had, where I was like losing the weight, I got back in
When
like
the
we
show
got
started,
back in,
right?
Because
Because you had like 15 months when the show started.
Yeah, when the show started, that was when I was still with you know who, and that's when I was getting fat. Like that was my longer stint of sobriety, but I would say my better one was kind of that 9-month period. That's when we started doing the cold plunges and all that, and I was losing the weight, and that's where
Working out.
And the funny thing is that I was living with the parents for some time of that, and I then eventually moved out on my own and just like it's funny there are situations I've been in where it's the same environment, same thing, but I thrived in it and then I didn't. So a lot of it is where kind of my mind's at.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the weirdest things about like people, and I think this goes for a lot of stuff beyond addiction and stuff, but the readiness and willingness to change, and people think it's sometimes spurned on by these external things, but sometimes it just arrives to you. Like, like a lot of people, even like some people that are like, I left this relationship because this bullshit happened. But you look at the relationship, it's like, that's been happening over and over again.
Absolutely.
But just one day, it just kind of...
It happened with me with weed. Like I tried many times, I stopped January 31st and, sober ever since then. What is that, 3.5 months? And I had tried many times previously and had failed, went back to it over and over again. This time, it wasn't even a planned thing. I wasn't like super like, I need to stop this year or anything. It just felt right. Something internally clicked. The puzzle pieces came together. And I just said, I'm done. There's no specific event that forced it. There was nothing external making me do anything. And it just like internally, it just came together.
Yeah.
And then even like the cravings afterwards, when I had quit in the past, I had, got a couple months, and then like the thoughts like, this sucks. Like, I'm not even really gaining anything. I like to feel good at the end of the night. Like all these, these rationalizations come back in, and then you fall back into it. And this is like, it's just not there. Sometimes the cravings will appear. Wouldn't that be nice? But then what I just immediately I think through after I smoke it, and then like an hour later, and then 2 hours later, I'm getting the munchies, or my OCD flares up because I'm so high, or whatever it may be. It's like, that's not actually that enjoyable. But yeah, exactly what you're saying is just, it's like the grace of God. It's just like
it really is. That's
something
what people,
just happens.
Yeah, like in the sort of recovery community, they use the phrase "you're sick and tired of being sick and tired." It's just like, it's funny to think about because it's always horrible, but just now it's unbearable. But it's just nothing. Like, what started that my longest stint. You think it's some horrific rock bottom thing, right? Like the time where I was in the psych ward withdrawing off alcohol and methadone, or the suicide attempt, or the
dumpster sleeping,
or just the dumpster sleeping, all that type of stuff, and getting arrested, waking up in a jail in Cottington County, South Dakota. But I just drank for 3 days. It was over a weekend, and then I took a day off work, got up, went through withdrawals and stuff like that, and just carried on. And I just had this momentum, and I had this weird readiness. And that's what was really scaring me over this past year and over for a little while now, is that I was like, I know what that readiness feels like, and I don't have that. And I know, and the worst thing is that this is obviously shit that like counselors can't say, or people, it's like, you can't be like, well, when you're ready, come on, because it's usually like, well, no, you're going to lose your kids now, or you're going to jail, or you're like, life is not going to wait for you to be ready, which is a very true thing too. But there is something to this sort of internal readiness based on who knows.
Yeah.
And
it's so intangible, you can't build anything around it.
And there's no like, you try to explore what set that off? Was this going on in my life, or was I doing this thing? It's like, nope, you just kind of were just good to go. And to fall out of that too. And so one interesting thing, this iteration of it, always hoping it's my last, but this iteration of it was that I did not feel that readiness. Dude, I fucking did not want to go, but I literally, a phrase I always like to use that piss people off a lot in treatment is that a lot of people are on papers, so they're on probation or parole, or they're facing drug court, or they're doing something, legally they get the nudge, the sort of Douglas County Scholarship Program. And so, there's people that will go, I'm not here legally required or anything like that. I chose to bring myself here, and it's the sort of thing, because it's sort of this weird flex of, this means more to me than the others because I don't have to be here. And one thing I always say is that I'm not here legally, but I did not bring myself here. My troubles did. Nobody just says, you know what, I'm going to do this summer. I'm going to go to a homeless shelter rehab. Nobody chooses really to go here. It is whatever consequences you're facing. Now, granted, the legal things give you more structure, and there's more of a tangible, because someone may threaten to leave, but she's like, you won't actually leave me this time or something. But like with the courts, it's like, yes, you will go to jail if you do this. But for them, I always try to look, because one, I feel bad for sometimes people that are on papers that really do mean they're here for themselves, and they're here to better their lives, and it's not because legally they're pushed. I mean, that's a factor of it. And I've lived every iteration of that, too. I've been on papers and didn't want to do it, like internally. I've been on papers and did want to do it, meant it. It didn't matter if I was. I've been off papers and didn't want to do it, and I've been off papers and wanted to do it more than anything else. Yeah. And this time around, I did not want to be there, but I had nowhere to go. Like my mom was like, okay, there's a shelter, and here's a treatment program. You can stay in that building, or you can stay in that building. That's it.
So she was kind of kicking you out?
Yeah. Hey, if you don't do this, those are your two options. And one of the saddest things was, and it's just like, this idea of what that turmoil is. She's like, don't make me fucking do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
She said that she would see people like, there's certain intersections where it's not a lot in Omaha, but there's certain intersections where you normally see homeless people, and she was just like, I fear so much I'm going to see you on that thing, and she's like, don't make me do this. It's like with a lot of people, it's like, don't make me leave you. Yeah. Don't make me,
Heartbreaking.
And so one real novel idea that I kind of just started going off of, and it sounds strange, but it was like one of the counselors I talked about. He was just like, you know what? And I was honest about it. I was like, dude, I don't feel that readiness, but I'm trying, you know. And he's like, just whatever way it means to you, learn to be tired. Learn to be tired. So when you have good things that you're grateful for, add that to your tiredness of like, I'm tired of not having these things in my life. Like, is this weird mental, like, sort of, like, this sort of, you know...
Leaning into the reasoning.
Leaning into the idea of, even when you're enjoying something, the misery that would be if you didn't have it.
Right.
Not in, like, a
consciously
negative
making
way.
the connections, even if you don't feel it internally.
Yeah.
You're just making that list in your head. Here's another reason, you know? And then enough reasons kind of pile up, and then there might be that qualitative inner shift.
Yeah, because I thought, like, the torn ACL thing... Dude, if that happened when I was drinking, I would have fucked this up. I would have probably, because they were also looking for tears in the meniscus and the PCL and stuff. I'd be fucking walking on this thing like an idiot. I would have fucked this leg up even worse. It's like when I won $30,000 gambling.
Hell yeah, dude.
Fantasy.
We all remember.
I tell people that, dude, if I would have won that when I was drinking, that could have been a death sentence.
That's a good point.
I could have just said, fuck it. Got some, obviously not a very great hotel, but enough for $30,000.
Oh, you could get a nice one.
Yeah. But I would have just done leaving Denver, Colorado, or, you know, leaving, you know. But I would have.
Absolutely.
So, you know, there's just things to think about like that. It's just like, imagine where you're at now, and dude, if you were, I mean, anything, if you just add if you were drinking or if you were using, it just, yeah. So I don't know. It's just an interesting idea, and I feel. I think I'm pushing more towards that. It feels like the fog is really lifting. And so shit is still difficult. Still have squirrely thoughts every now and then. But, you know, I'm just like, and another thing is, too, this constant cynical jadedness of, you've been here before. This thing that whispers like, oh, you feel different? You've said that before.
You always talk
You're
about
having this
this,
deja vu. And now, like, I don't care. I don't care if I look like a fool to myself. I'll be stupid. Maybe I've been here before. Who cares?
Yeah, tell that voice to shut the fuck up.
Right. Like,
just recognize it for, there's that voice again. Shut the fuck up.
So many times I've had to ask myself, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? You know, like, there's so many times where, at least I knew this shitty thing would happen and I was aware of it. And I didn't look stupid for believing in something better. You know,
I think like OCD or even like in meditation or something, but whatever it is, like becoming more and more aware that nihilistic, jaded voice is this precursor to disaster. It is the voice that lures you in. It's the siren call of addiction. This I don't give a fuck. What's it all for anyway? You're not actually better. You're
in relationships too.
It pops
you
up
see
there
that
too?
in that person.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and like, I mean, in general, you could see it in other people where they have been maybe cheated on in a major relationship in their life.
Absolutely.
And they start seeing it. They're like, everybody cheats on everybody.
Absolutely.
And they see it in someone who's not doing it. And sometimes almost the self-fulfilling thing almost pushes them to cheat, or, you know, like.
But for you, I think it just continuing to increase this awareness of that jaded, cynical nihilist within you every time it appears, even in its more subtlest form, right? To be immediately like, there it is. I know what that is. That's actually not me. That's not anything I have to believe or follow. You know, that is just like an OCD thought, or in meditation when you just watch your thoughts come and go and you just realize how empty and silly they are. It's that same thing. Like, I'm aware that this is it. This is not me. This is the voice that leads me back into the abyss. You know, it's never done anything good for me. It never serves me. And I just know what that is. And then once you can kind of create that distance of awareness, oh, that's that voice again, you know, then you can kind of like create that distance and set it aside. Like, I don't need to listen to it. I don't need to follow its logic.
Right.
I know that this is that part of me. It really is like the addiction demon, you know?
Well, and I think it's also a larger part, like with depression or stuff. I think sometimes whether we know we're doing it or not, we think that cynicism protects us.
Yeah, it is a defense. It's an ego defense mechanism.
Because we're not going to be made a fool for being hopeful, or like, and then having our, you know, because one of my people talk about what is the biggest like instigators of relapse. You know, one specific to you. Mine is disappointment. Like disappointment in something I've looked up to, and which is so funny. I always consider myself such a pessimistic, cynical person, but clearly there's hope there because I get disappointed. I get so disheartened by something, and that whatever that weird. Like, specifically to me, that sort of radioactive, gnawing feeling of sadness that comes specifically from disappointment is what really, because that cranks the apathy up and that cranks the hopelessness up. And those are the two biggies that lead me like back to drinking when I know it's going to be just fucking insanity, you know? And the funny thing is, even that is a delusion. I was like, I know it's going to be bad, you know, and fuck it. And the funny thing is that I was like, you know, I'm not like those other idiots who think that they can drink normally and go back to drinking and they're alcoholic. I have a different delusion. You know, I was like, I see it for what it is. It's like, no, you don't, because your dumbass thinks. You think you're ready for the consequences. Like, I don't often quote any, like, AA stuff because the AA people do it enough already. But there is one line that is very, and I think it, again, something that applies to a lot of other stuff. And I just think it sounds cool and ominous, is that with alcoholism, and you could say addiction too, obviously, there is an incomprehensible demoralization. And what it talks about is that it's shitty, it's bad, but you can't even imagine where it'll take you. You think you can imagine, you actually use these references of your past, of all this suffering stuff. It's like, no, you cannot imagine where it will take you. So anytime you think, I'm going to relapse, I'm going to get back into the shit, goblin mode.
It's going to be like this.
Or whatever, skunk mode, or whatever. No. Even that is a delusion because you are not ready. Even if the consequences are worse. We're not talking about getting a DUI or getting broken up with or losing a job. New places in your mind, like new levels of despair. You can't even imagine where your mind will go. Like consequences are like, I've dealt with like a lot of consequences, and sometimes to a certain point after you've spent a lot of time with this type of stuff, they almost ironically seem inconsequential, because I've been in places where it's like, that stuff isn't that bad. You're actually not in trouble with the law. You're still in a relationship. But I felt way worse than when I was sitting in jail or something. Like, it's the places of your mind, truly.
Absolutely.
And so that's one delusion I've always had. So I try to think about that as well, too. It's like, no, David. You think you're going to relapse and rebuild, which, by the way, if you're lucky enough to get a chance to rebuild, but you don't know where it will take you. Like, you think, like, because there's times where I was like, I thought I was suicidal before. And then I got to places where it was like, oh no, you're actually starting to be scared of your own thoughts. Because you thought you were suicidal. Like, it's shit like that where, and you have to be, so basically, you don't know what you're getting into, even when you know, quote unquote, that you're making a bad decision. You're like, bring on the shit or whatever. It's like, you don't know what you're bargaining for.